What is going on, YouTube? We're back with a Punisher's Crypt theory crafting video. Really excited for this boss. I think out of all of the new content, I am most excited for this boss. He looks beautiful. He looks amazing. He looks so dangerous and deadly and sleek. I love it. I love the sword effects, and I'm really excited to get into this dungeon. Having said that, of course, this is Summoner's War. We want to farm for efficiency, okay? We don't want to sit here and spend 6 minutes every single, like, back to back, day after day, looking at animations, okay? We're going to want speed runs. We're going to want to get this dungeon done quick, because in the end, it is the artifact that we're after, you guys. It's progression on our account that we're after, and we want to make some really crazy synergies and strategies with these artifacts on our teams. I know I'm super excited for that. So last night on stream, we decided to do some theory crafting about this boss. Okay, we don't know what the boss's speed is going to be, but we do know that it's supposed to be the fastest boss in the game. I think the R5 boss is something like 185 speed or something like that. So I kind of predict that this boss is going to be somewhere, at least on the B10 version, somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 225 speed, which is pretty fast when you think about, you know, like earlier game players. Crossing that 200 speed threshold is not easy. Granted, it's going to be easier now if you can do B12 dungeons and get 6-star runes on a regular basis. Getting your units to over 200 speed should be a whole lot easier than it has ever been. Which, thank you, Comtos, for helping to close that gap a little bit and give new players a little bit quicker progression into the mid to late games. Having said that, the mechanics of this boss are also very unique to anything we've seen, and certainly gonna pose some very new strategies, which I am a big fan of, because you're not just gonna come in and loreing this thing to death. Let's have a quick look at the skills. Dance of Sword attacks all enemies and decreases the attack bar by 30% each. Across the board, your whole team, boom. So if this boss is really fast, if you do not outspeed this, you're going to want will runes on your team. Second attack for the same reason, because if he prioritizes that first, you're going to, again, want to have will runes up there, okay? Attacks the enemy target 7 times. 7 times, and absorbs the attack bar by 20% each. So, you know, you can't just bring Leica in here to be a cheat code survivor, because he's going to get hit a lot. He's going to lose his attack bar, and then the boss is just going to get to go again, because let's say 7 times 20 is way more than 100%. That boss is going to give himself another turn immediately. Now, of course, you might resist some of the attack bar game, but if it's anything like a Jeer skill 3, who absorbs 50% of a monster's attack bar twice, absorbs, even if you only have 20% attack bar and he absorbs on both hits, he still gains 100% attack bar and pushes you to 0. He doesn't just gain your 20%, he gains 100%. So I expect this boss mechanic to work the exact same way, which seems silly, really. You should only be able to absorb something that exists, you know? I can't absorb oxygen out of a vacuum where there is no oxygen. That doesn't work. A true vacuum. Anyways, Punisher's Sword passive, guys. This is where it starts to get really scary. This is basically like a rage timer, okay? If you guys have ever played an MMO like WoW or whatever, where a boss has an enraged timer after 15 minutes of fighting it, if you haven't killed it yet, he's basically gonna just go like Hulk smash and destroy everything, okay? This is essentially what this skill is. The skill will be enhanced as follows when the Ancient Punisher gains the designated turn. So he gains 5th turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, here we go. Dance of Swords. Number of attacks will be increased up to 3 times according to the attack speed, which means he can AoE you and wipe your attack bar with up to 3 hits, depending on his attack speed. So think of like Stella, right? The more attack speed she has, the more that skill hits, her third ability hits. Now, what we don't know is that 3 times attack going to come off of his base attack speed? Is it going to be when he has a speed buff, which I am assuming one of his towers or crystals, whatever they are going to give him a speed buff? Where else would he get it based on his attack speed, unless, 100% of all of these additional effects based on his attack speed is based on his baseline attack speed, which seems a little weird to me. Moving on, 10th turn, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On that start of that 10th turn, conviction, so the 7 multi-hit damage will be increased up to 100% according to attack speed. This dude, you can expect he's going to basically be one-shotting most units that aren't super, super tanky. Maybe even the ones that are super tanky will be one-shot with this ability if he's at 100% increased damage. Again, we're going to have to wait and see how that exactly pans out in relation to his attacks, current attacks, his base attack speed versus buffed or debuffed. Speed debuff is going to be super important in this boss, by the way. 15th turn, okay, if you're still alive, if you still have a team at this point and you haven't killed this boss yet, you lose. All attacks will ignore the enemy's defense up to 100% according to the attack speed. So he's already got the up to 3 times on the first hit, which is an AoE, now can ignore almost everybody's defense. He's also got conviction that is going to do up to 100% increased damage as damage output, and now you're not going to be able to block any of that with your defense. Good game, you're done, goodbye. You have up to 14 turns. You have 14 of the boss's turns to kill this guy. And like I said, I expect one of his towers is going to give him an attack speed buff, and I really wouldn't be surprised if the other one just gives him a turn. Because this boss is all about turns. This boss is everything that turn cycling in RTA is. You just give him as many turns as you possibly can. Reverser passive. This is where it gets unique, you guys. This is where it gets really challenging and really limits the types of units you want to bring in here. The damage received from the enemy will be decreased up to 70% according to the attack speed. Up to 70% damage reduction depending on his attack speed. Again, I want to know, is this on a buffed? Is this normal? Or is this debuffed? How does it all play out? Is it 0% damage reduction if he's got a speed debuff on him? Because you can only slow him down so much, right? I mean, you could bring Leo in, but the next sentence here kind of makes you not want to bring Leo in. Additionally, gains a turn instantly when the boss is granted with the decrease attack bar effect. So if you try to bring Lauren in here, all you're going to do is give this boss turn after turn after turn. There's no Spectra, there's no Hua, no Ran. Anything that pushes back attack bar is going to immediately give this guy a turn. Now, we could still make an argument for Leo. If we take away all this boss's attack speed and make it like 100 or 110 or whatever your Leo is at. This is for obviously people that are fortunate enough to have Leo. This is not a free-to-play option, of course. But if you have a Leo, you can really screw over all of his additional stuff that he gains and make that kind of a moot point because his attack speed is going to be so low. You put a slow debuff on him on top of that, he's going to do negative stuff. So Leo might actually still be a cheat code here, even though anytime Leo attacks the boss, there is a good chance you're going to be immediately giving the boss a turn. Of course, then he has the chance, if he's got conviction up to absorb your attack bar and take a second turn. And the more turns he takes like that, the quicker he's going to accumulate Punisher's sword stacks but gaining those bonus effects might be a moot point if his attack speed is only like 100 because of Leo. That's going to have to be tested out. I think it's very risky, but if it works out the way I'm thinking about it, the way I described it there, we might be okay running Leo in this team. If not, these are some of the things that we came up with. So this is a light boss. So there's no elemental disadvantage here. Well, dark units kind of elemental disadvantage when the boss is hitting you, but you have elemental advantage when you're hitting the boss. 50 goes back and forth, right? So when we think about this boss, what do we really want to do? We definitely want to have a slow debuff, if we can, as quickly as we can on this boss. Best unit that we could think of that has this kind of just built right into skill 1 and isn't going to have to worry about attack bar pushback is going to be Chilling. Okay, Chilling also has a speed buff and a critical rate buff that he can give your team. He can steal enemy buffs. Granted, this boss doesn't really appear to buff himself, so I don't think that's going to be too much of a concern here. But he does have that slow ability on a triple multi-hit right at the start to go first. So if you have him speed tuned to go first on your team, he can come in, lay that down, and in case one of the towers are a speed buffing tower, he does have the steal as well to strip that off and actually give it to himself. So Chilling is very, very promising here. I would recommend a violent set on Chilling in case he comes into the fight with skill 2 buff available. He will likely prioritize that buff over a skill 1 attack on the boss to slow the boss. Having that vial in there just gives you as much of a chance at insurance as you do on that mechanic. Or if he happens to miss landing, which I believe at max skills, he has a 60% chance and the attack hits 3 times. So 60% times 3, 180% chance to activate the skill, essentially. Accuracy and resistance. So you're going to want a bit of accuracy on your Chilling as well to do this. So that is thing number 1. Thing number 2 is clearing waves, okay? Waves, we don't know how much HP these things are going to have. We have been told by the dev team that these dungeons are supposed to be a little bit more difficult than the existing dungeons, but a well-runed Lucian, a well-runed Julie, in my case I have Zerath, but obviously that's super not free to play. If you're lucky, I didn't buy him, but you're going to want an AoE wave clear, so a unit like that will be really good. Next up, twins. How do we not have twins in something like this? You want to deal as much damage as you can as quickly as you can. So if you can have some insanely runed damage twins that you're probably already using in your dungeons for your other B12s, that's huge, because now you're having to diversify less rune sets onto monsters, and obviously we want to try to have consistent teams as much as possible. That's going to be a little bit harder now with the mono element and the wind dungeon being introduced. Obviously you're not going to bring Sabrina Tally into that. Another video we did on the Steel Fortress speculation already, or theory crafting already, but we've got so those in my mind are going to be 2 of your best damage dealers here. Obviously this final pick, well, I mean, I guess the first pick was slow. You're going to want that regardless. The final pick here, Vertihil or 2A Rogue. This is where I would also consider slotting in a Leo if you have one and if we prove it to be effective. He's going to require testing to see if we can prove him to be effective here, but this is where I would kind of put in a Leo. Now, this boss, we've already know, is going to be the fastest boss in the game. Okay, we don't know. He could wind up being 300 speed. He could wind up being like 400 speed. We have no idea. Okay, if he's way faster than your whole team, okay, you're gonna want will runes on all your units to start, so that you're not gonna get your attack bar absorbed or pushed back and have the boss, take 2 or 3 turns before you even get your first one. And next thing you know, Punisher Sword's already on 1 stack. And you've barely got to do anything yet. So will runes would be super important for that. If we are able to outspeed, if he is in the 200 to 225 speed range, depending on where you're at in the game, Vertihil on a very fast build might be your best option, right? Because if you can only afford to have like 1 good set, well over 200 speed, but the rest of your high damage sets that you're going to have on the rest of these T units, because they're all like Chilling, everybody, they're all going to be on crit damage, okay? They're all going to be heavy damage builds, ideally, with speed incorporated as well. Once Chilling gets a turn, he can speed buff you, and that's going to help. But Vertihil will be runed super fast so that you can actually go first with Vertiheal. He hits the boss, boosts your team up by 40% attack bar, and now the rest of your team gets a chance to go. You get a chance to apply a slow debuff onto the boss and take control of the battle right away. If we're talking about an auto farming speed run, this might be the best strategy. It kind of counters like most of the time when we're talking like doing dragons or something like that. We want Vertiheal to move last so that your team can take multiple turns before the boss. If you can easily outspeed this boss with all of your damage units, then that theory should still apply. However, if you're not able to outspeed everybody, you want will runes and you want your Verdi to go first, and Verd can give you attack bar. I guess if Verd gives you first turn, even though the rest of your team's slower than the boss, will runes are negligible. You wouldn't really need will runes, and you could afford to go with just straight damage runes to complete an offset. The other option you have here, of course, is Second Awaken Rogue. And this I would lean more towards, like, if your entire damage team is able to be faster than the boss, I wouldn't go with a slow Vertiheal. I would actually lean more towards a Second Awaken Rogue, okay? This gives you another defense break opportunity. This gives you a team up opportunity for cooldown addressing and just more damage, more chances at slow debuffs from chilling. I would very, very much lean towards Second Awaken Rogue here, and there's a good chance you're already running this guy in other dungeons anyway. Also, we talked about Leo. He's risky, but I think he might also he might have a chance here, okay? If you have a Leo, I'm going to be really curious to see, okay? I want you guys to let me know in the comments or join the Discord. Come by live on Twitch. We stream 3 nights a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And after this update hits, let me know. I'll be testing Leo. I do have one. Let's talk about it. Let's see how he works in there and if he is a bit of a cheat code to this dungeon. He already is a cheat code in the Speed Labyrinth dungeons, and I'm hoping he's not, because I don't want it to be that easy, but we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, you guys, we've rambled long enough. This is the team that we've kind of theory crafted, kind of the roles that we have theory crafted to counter this boss. I'm really, really curious to see how effective they're going to be. Hopefully you have most of these units, and most of these units should be very accessible to you. You know, we talked about, I put Bethany and Woonhawk in here. Woonhawk, I think, is a 3-star Dark Donger, and Bethany is a 4-star magical archer, dark magical archer. They both have slows built into them. Bethany has it on skill 2, I think. She's got some ignored damage on her skill 3, as well as increased damage on skill 1 based on how many debuffs are on the boss. So she could be a really good damage dealer here as well. I have one. She's not 6-starred yet. I'm debating whether or not I want to 6-star her, because I think chilling's just going to be a safer, more reliable option, and ultimately that's what we're really after. Bethany would be there to maybe post a best time. Chilling's going to be there for a more reliable, consistent run. Anyways, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. Be sure to like the video, smash that subscribe button, and as always, happy summoning.